What if the real drama in Hollywood wasn't on screen, but hidden in plain sight? These 5 men lived 2 lives, one for the spotlight, one in the shadows. Some were exposed, some stayed silent, but all paid a price for simply being themselves. Drop a comment if you've heard their names, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because what Hollywood tried to forget, we're about to remember. Leonard Frey. He wasn't a matinee idol or the leading man with a square jaw, but Leonard Frey didn't need to be. He stole every scene with quiet brilliance, fierce timing, and a gaze that said, "I know who I am." While others stayed silent, he chose the harder road. He didn't just act in queer stories. He lived them, openly, unapologetically, when the world still whispered the word gay like it was a scandal. In 1970, he took center stage in The Boys in the Band, a groundbreaking film about gay men that was decades ahead of its time. While most actors avoided the project like the plague, terrified of what it might do to their careers, Leonard ran straight into it. Not just as a performer, but as a gay man willing to be visible. He didn't hide, didn't pretend, and he paid a price. Typecast, overlooked, underused, but never erased. He later earned an Oscar nomination for Fiddler on the Roof, proving that truth didn't kill talent. It amplified it. Leonard Frey died in 1988 from AIDS-related complications, one of the many bright lights we lost too soon. But what he left behind wasn't just a list of roles, it was a legacy of courage, a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing an actor can do is play himself. So, here's a question for you. Would you risk your dream to live your truth if the whole world was watching? Let us know in the comments. And if Leonard's story moved you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Because these aren't just old Hollywood tales, they're blueprints for the freedom we fight for today. George Maharis. George Maharis wasn't just a handsome face on black and white television. He was the face. Brooding, sultry, the kind of guy who could fix your car, break your heart, and light a cigarette all in one shot. In the early 1960s, America was glued to their screens watching Route 66, and Maharis was driving the fantasy. But just when his star was burning brightest, boom, he vanished. No goodbye episode, no heroic death, no spin-off, just gone. The reason? Well, let's just say it wasn't engine trouble. In 1967, George Maharis was arrested in a public restroom with another man. The tabloids ran wild, his fan base shattered, Hollywood silent. And George, he lawyered up and disappeared into the fog of no comment. He never officially came out, never wrote a tell-all, but the whispers never stopped. And the truth? It was parked somewhere between privacy and survival. See, in a time when one scandal could flatten your whole career, George Maharis became the cautionary tale no actor dared to mention. But here's the twist. He never apologized. He never begged for redemption. He just lived, quietly, fiercely, and on his own terms. So while Route 66 gave us the great American road trip, Maharis's real journey was something far bolder. A silent rebellion against a system that punished men for who they were. Makes you wonder, if George had come along today, would he have been canceled or crowned a queer icon? Let us know what you think in the comments. Noël Coward never came out. But let's be honest, he didn't need to. The tuxedos, the cutting wit, the string of impossibly handsome male companions, it all spoke louder than any confession ever could. At a time when even a whisper of queerness could end a career, Coward floated above it all, with a cigarette in one hand and a perfectly timed comeback in the other. When asked about his personal life, he deflected with flair. There are still a few women who whisper that I'm homosexual, but they don't know me well enough. It wasn't denial, it was style. Coward was the rare kind of man who didn't just survive a repressive system, he outclassed it. He filled his plays with double meanings, his songs with sly innuendo, and his life with chosen family long before that was a concept. While others hid in fear, he created a world where queerness could live, if you knew how to read between the lines. He never married. He never explained. But he also never shrank himself to fit in. To the public, he was a genius. To the insiders, he was a quiet trailblazer. And to those who came after, he was proof that you could be queer, creative, and unbothered, even in a time that didn't have the language for it. He didn't fight the world with outrage. He charmed it into looking the other way, while quietly living on his own terms. That's not just clever. That's courage, dressed in a velvet smoking jacket. Edward Everett Horton. Edward Everett Horton never played the leading man. He played the butler, the nervous uncle, the guy who said, "Oh dear," a lot and stole the scene with a raised eyebrow and a well-timed stammer. He wasn't Hollywood handsome. He was Hollywood hilarious. And behind the comic timing and prim posture was a life that never quite fit the script. He never married. He lived with the same male companion for decades. And yet, no one ever asked too many questions. Because, well, Horton was just like that. Charming, eccentric, a little different. Back then, different was code. And everyone in Hollywood knew exactly what it meant. They just pretended not to. While leading men built alibis and studio-arranged marriages, Horton quietly carved out a career being exactly who he was. On screen and off. No scandals, no statements. Just decades of steady work and subtle resistance. He brought humor into rooms that weren't always safe. And in doing so, he gave queer men a kind of visibility that didn't exist in headlines, but lived in subtext. It's easy to overlook someone like Horton. He wasn't bold, he wasn't loud. But maybe that's why he lasted. Because in a town obsessed with reinvention, he stayed consistent. Funny, gentle, unmistakably queer in a way no one dared say out loud, but everyone felt. And maybe that's his quiet legacy. Being yourself, even when no one claps for it, still matters. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is smile, stay, and keep showing up. Francis Lederer. Francis Lederer wasn't just hard to label. He was designed that way. Mysterious, polished, always on the edge of intimacy, but never quite stepping into it. Hollywood sold him as the ultimate foreign seducer, a dark European with slow eyes and a voice like red wine. But behind the studio gloss was a man no one could quite explain, and no one ever really dared to ask. He never married, never brought a woman to red carpet events. And while the public saw a gentleman recluse, those inside the industry saw something else entirely. Young male actors spoke of intense one-on-one training sessions at his private estate. Some called him a mentor. Others, a little too familiar. There were no headlines, no police reports, just a quiet pattern, the kind Hollywood used to pretend not to notice. Lederer's closest bonds were always with men. He spent decades living with a younger male companion, listed officially as an assistant. It was the same euphemism Rock Hudson's team would use years later. He wasn't flamboyant, but he wasn't hiding either. He simply never explained. And in that silence, people heard exactly what they weren't supposed to say out loud. What makes his story powerful isn't what he revealed. It's what he didn't need to. In an industry that demanded fake marriages and fake smiles, Lederer gave them neither. He didn't lie to survive, he just stayed out of reach. That, in its own quiet way, was defiance. His story reminds us that queerness has never been one thing. Sometimes it's loud and proud, and sometimes it's wrapped in silk robes, teaching acting in the hills of California, while the truth hums softly beneath the surface. They didn't wave flags or hold press conferences, but every quiet decision they made, to stay true, to resist, to endure, became a silent revolution. These men didn't just act on stage or screen. They acted with courage in real life, in an industry that punished the very thing they dared to be. Their stories remind us, being queer doesn't have to be loud to matter. Sometimes the boldest thing you can do is simply exist. Let us know which story struck a chord with you. Hit like if you believe visibility still matters, and tap subscribe to make sure their legacies live on. Because this was only the beginning. There are still names hidden in the margins, still stories that deserve to be heard, and voices that refuse to be erased. We'll uncover them next. And trust us, they're worth the wait.